Honourable members, Madam Speaker.
Prayers.
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with your abundant favor these your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under that deliberation, in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests you've committed to that church.
Amen. Item 2 on the other paper, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I welcome you to today's special sitting. The special sitting is meant to consider the National Budget Framework paper. And knowing that we have a constitutional timeline as in when this should be considered. And today's sitting is to enable us to receive and process the report of the Budget Committee on the National Budget Framework paper 2022-2023, 2026-2027. As you are aware, under Rule 145, subsection 3 of our rules of procedure, this House is to consider the National Budget Framework paper by first day of February 2022. So to ensure the timelines of our deliverance as a House, we decided to call for the House today, and you will have to bear with us for that. We had no choice. I therefore invite the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to move a motion for the adoption of the National Budget Framework paper, and after which I'll invite the chairperson of the Budget Committee to present his committee report to the whole House. I am also informed there is a minority report. We'll also receive the minority report, and we'll debate on the two reports. Minister.
Item 3, motion for adoption of the National Budget Framework paper for the financial years 2020, 22, 23, 2026 to 27.
Honorable Minister of Finance.
Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, under Rule 144, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development laid the National Budget Framework paper on this table. Under Rule 145, Right Honorable Speaker, you referred the Budget Framework paper to the Budget Committee and to relevant sectoral committees. I now wish to move a motion for the adoption of the National Budget Framework paper for the financial years 2022, 2023 to 2026, 2027. I beg to move. Secondly, Right Honorable Speaker, some small discrepancies were discovered during the process of meeting the various committees of Parliament. We did a correction of those figures through the Budget Committee, and I now wish to lay on table the addendum that corrects those figures, which already did with the budget committee and other sectoral committees. Just allow me for the record to lay this document on the table.
Please lay. Members, the minister has moved the motion. Is the motion that has been moved seconded? It has been seconded by Rita, Charity, Alayo, Bish, Isingoma, Ekanya, Tourism, Silwanyi, Minister, Magogo, Itungo, Saropendi, Faith, Gender, by the whole house. I am mentioning some names for the Hansard purpose. You know, we're taken to court where somebody said everybody has seconded. And when they said everybody, there was no name that was mentioned. So the few names, but I know it has been seconded by everybody. Can I have the chair? Minister, where is your chair? Can we have the report presented?
Right Honorable Speaker, my understanding is that the chair is for Parliament. For me, as the Minister of Finance, my motion is to adopt the report, the budget framework paper, which we laid on table. I could move that a question be put to adopt the DFP as laid on table.
Yes, okay.
Madam Speaker, I want to seek for your indulgence that as the chair prepares to start the process, maybe you suspend that item and you can handle other matters of national importance. Madam Speaker, we have very, very critical matters of national importance.
The motion is still on. The minister has not spoken to his motion. He has not made a justification. So let him speak to his motion and make a justification as he waits for the chair. We have only one item today, and that item is the National Budget Framework Paper. Matters of national importance will come on Tuesday. So could you speak to your motion, justify it as we wait for the chair?
Right Honorable Speaker, thank you so much. In this budget framework paper, which we are presenting for the period as already indicated, we present a framework which comes midway in the process of preparing the final estimates of our national budget. And the idea largely is that we receive comments, ideas from various stakeholders. In this case, we are receiving the ideas from Parliament on where you think that we should move our budget. The budget framework paper is meant to ensure that we implement the National Development Plan. It's moved based on the interventions that are contained in the National Development Plan. Over the years, Right Honorable Speaker, we have been made to ensure that the National Budget Framework Paper speaks to the National Development Plan. And that consistency between the two documents has been growing over the years. I will speak now. We have been able to develop the program-based budgeting tool to ensure that the budget speaks to the plan. And the plan we have now has been arranged in such a way that we go by the programs identified within the National Development Plan. So the plan or the budget that is before you, the annual plan that we are talking about now, presents the various programs. And I think this is where we, as Parliament, need to reorganize ourselves in such a way that the committees of Parliament actually speak to the current arrangement. Because we have moved away from that sectoral arrangement, the silo-based arrangement, where each sector would speak to itself, to an arrangement where they speak to a program. Now, various sectors now come together to deliver a certain program, the goals within a particular program. And it's now, I think, important that Parliament reorganizes to make sure that these committees are no longer sectoral committees as they used to be, but they are committees that are consistent with this program-based budgeting. I think that's when it will become more relevant. For example, if we take the agro-industrialization program, we would get a committee in charge of that particular program, agro-industrialization. And then they would be able to tackle the issues to make sure that there's full integration within that program. That industrialization within that program speaks to agricultural production. As it is now, agriculture sits in the other committee, then you have an industry committee somewhere else, debating separately. Now, in this arrangement, these two sectors, industry and agriculture, will be in one arrangement so that you can look at the goals, the interventions, the budgets, analyze them critically. In the current arrangement, where the two are not speaking to one another, you end up in a situation where so much resources are allocated to a particular sector and very little in the other. In the end, the value chain which we want to promote is actually not delivered because the value chain is now skewed in favor of one sector. And that's why I'm appealing to Parliament in going forward to ensure that the committees of Parliament are arranged accordingly. That's what we propose now. Right Honorable Speaker.
Guidance, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Honorable Minister. That document you are reading, none of the members got a copy. None of the members got a copy. You kept it yourself. Figures were not tallying. You claim that you had put on iPads. It is not there. This is the copy. Madam, help me. Just help me. Help me. This is the copy. You know, I mean what I'm saying. We are supposed to get copies of budget framework paper. Members were never accessed it. You are telling us something new. We have really more or less like ignorantly went through an extra mile to go to battle. I can't see how you can put a 350 pages on an iPad when you want to look at education, you want to look at health, you want to look at physical infrastructure. A member of Parliament of our caliber, Madam Speaker, I don't think we can continue being tuned to this finance business. This document he has, there could be about 4 copies in this house. Yet we are supposed to have this copy. You read, you highlight, you know, each one gets comfortable in his sector. I think it's not procedure right for finance to continue taking members of Parliament for a ride. The figures that are there don't tell what the ministers presented in the committees. This is something, programs, it's a new program, but we're not yet there. Now we are here, we are going to approve something that is not really in tandem with what is on the paper. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, did you furnish the members with the copies?
Right Honorable Speaker, we sent to Parliament 65 copies of well-printed documents that looked like this. And in fact, when we went to the Budget Committee, we laid in that committee copies of this document. The rest of the other copies were sent to the clerk's office to be sent to the various committees of Parliament. This Parliament took a decision that we are tending towards a paperless office. And in that regard, a decision was taken to buy iPads with huge capacity to accommodate documents of this kind.
Honorable Minister, in the 10th Parliament, we still had iPads, but we would still get those documents in our pigeonholes. And Leader of Opposition will bear me a witness on this. Isn't it true, Leader of Opposition, that would get the NDP, the National Budget Framework paper, only in our... Of course, the members are saying it's a big thing, but what we can now say, okay, because of COVID, if it has been uploaded on the iPads, that is understandable.
Madam Speaker, it's not there. It's not there.
Madam.
Anyway, what we are going to discuss is not what is talking. We are going to discuss the report from the Budget Committee. And that is the one I want uploaded. I need the two reports uploaded, the minority report and then the major report. Yes, can the minister finish with this justification? Then you come as a wait for the uploading. It's a big document. It's a big document.
Yes, right, Honorable Speaker. We are sorry, but that was our understanding that the document would be uploaded. I think there was a problem somewhere in between that the IT people did not upload this document. Otherwise, it's supposed to be a record of Parliament. It should be on the iPads. And we thought by presenting it to the clerk, the document would be loaded on our iPads. But going back to my earlier submission, we have laid a macroeconomic framework for the next budget, and we have made projections largely focused on the restoration of our national economy that has been largely devastated by COVID. Almost 2 years of COVID, lockdowns here and there, have not left our economy the same. So this coming budget will largely focus on the restoration of our economy. Secondly, we've been facing challenges associated with our resource envelope, particularly the structure of that resource envelope, which has been largely composed of interest payments, debt refinancing issues, and amortization for external commitments. Now, that is a big problem because that takes away a lot of our resources that would be used as discretionary expenditure on the various national priorities. So in brief, we have a resource that is about 32 trillion shillings, largely for discretionary expenditure. And in that discretionary expenditure, including interest payments of 5 trillion shillings. So in effect, we have 27 trillion shillings out of 43 trillion shillings available for distribution within the various programs of our national budget. The programs I'm talking about, I think I should mention them for members to note since you don't have the document. We have agro-industrialization that is getting a total of 1.798 trillion shillings. Mineral development that is getting 35 billion shillings, 35.6 billion shillings. Sustainable development of petroleum resources is the third program with 149.3 billion shillings. Tourism development, 181.6 billion shillings. Climate change, natural resources, environment and water management, 890 billion shillings. Private sector development, 660.9 billion shillings. Manufacturing, 79.1 billion shillings. Integrated transport infrastructure and services is 4.855 trillion shillings. Sustainable energy development is 1.1 trillion shillings. Digital transformation, 217.7 billion shillings. Sustainable urbanization and housing, 427.6 billion shillings. Human capital development, 6.9 trillion shillings. And then you have innovation, technology and development with 24.2 billion shillings. Community mobilization and mindset, 72.6 billion shillings. Governance and security, 6.48 trillion shillings. Public sector transformation, 207.8 billion shillings. Regional development, and that's where we largely have the parish model, 1.06 trillion shillings. Development plan implementation, 1 trillion shillings. Administration of justice, 383.9 billion shillings. Legislation, oversight and representation, 686.6 billion shillings. And then interest payments due, 5.088 trillion shillings. Now, we have these memo items that I referred to earlier. Domestic refinancing of 7.651 trillion shillings. And amortization on external debt, 2.462 trillion shillings. Domestic arrears, 395.5 billion shillings. And appropriation in aid stroke local revenue is 212.4 billion shillings. And that gives us a total of the 43.083 trillion shillings. Now, Right Honorable Speaker, as we all are aware, this is a process. We are still continuing to review our national budget with a view to moving resources from where they are, especially in areas that do not constitute the priorities identified in our budget strategy, to areas that are considered to be of more importance in the current budget strategy. So that process is still going on, and we had a long discussion with the budget committee about this particular issue. We hope that by the time we get back, we shall have directed resources to certain areas where we appear to be wanting at the current state. So we shall be allocating more resources in those areas. Madam Speaker, with those remarks, I thank you so much for this opportunity.
Procedure, Right Honorable.
Hello? Yes.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity, of course, to thank the chairman, the minister, not the chairman, the minister,
He
for
was formerly the chairman of budget.
He was formerly the chairman of budget, and he was my chairman. So I apologize for keep referring you as chairman when God already brought you in front. Right, Honorable Speaker. What I expected chairman to do, chairman, the minister has come here and has told us that we are going to pay interest on loans of 5 trillion shillings. And this is what is happening over and over again. We are always paying interest. What is the long-term plan that the Minister of Finance has to start tackling our loans, even if we handle 1% of the principal? What is the long-term plan? Because in every budget framework paper that we bring, that the minister brings to this parliament, we are handling interest. Okay.
I think what we
I
do.
am bringing the procedural point, Right Honorable Speaker. So, Right Honorable Speaker, would need to be procedurally right for the Honorable Minister to give us the long-term plan that the ministry has on the payment of the principal of the loans that we keep approving in this parliament, other than telling us every time that we are going to cover this interest up to this level. That's the matter I want to raise.
Honorable Silwani, I just know you wanted to divert the minister. That is, that's okay. But I told the minister to make a justification for his motion, which of course he has done. So let's now have the chairperson come with his report. Both reports are being uploaded. Bear with these people. Let the chair start uploading the report. Start reading the report so that we are able to have all the reports read. Chair, budget. And the shadow on this side will also read the other report.
Right Honorable Speaker, the honorable members, the report of the Budget Committee on the National Budget Framework Paper for financial 2022-23, financial 25-26. Right Honorable Speaker, it is a 200-page report, 236-page report. They are in the process of uploading now in the library. But I beg your indulgence if I could start with the macro part. It has 2 sections. There's a macro part, then part 2 is for sector committee's recommendations. That one which forms bulk of the document. Right Honorable Speaker and members, in accordance with provisions of Article 90 and 115 for the Constitution, Section 91 to 98 of PFMA Act as amended and Rule 145 of our Rules of Procedure of Parliament, the committee is mandated to consider, discuss, and review the budget framework paper and report to the House for approval by 1st February for each year. In compliance with the above provision, I beg to present a report of the budget framework paper on national budget framework paper for the financial year 2022-23 to financial 2026-27 for consideration and approval. Like I've said, there's a legal compliance of the national budget framework paper, and the part 2 is sector committees methodology. We reviewed documents. We reviewed national budget framework paper for financial 2022-23, financial 2026, which the minister showed me here. The National Development Plan 3 for financial 2020-21 to financial 24-25. The Charter for Fiscal Responsibility for financial 22-23 to financial 25-26. Certificate of Gender and Equity Responsiveness of 2022-23 to 25-26. Public Finance Management Act 2025 and the regulation, annual budget performance report for financial 2020-21, annual macroeconomic and fiscal performance report for financial 2020-21, the parliamentary committee reports, the first budget call circular, the stakeholders. We met the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, National Planning Authority, Economic and Policy Research Center, Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, Equal Opportunities Commission, and the Office of Leader of Opposition, represented by Shadow Minister of Finance. Part A, macro aspect of National Budget Framework Paper. Legal compliance of National Budget Framework Paper. In accordance to Section 9 of PFMA, Roman 1, the Minister shall, for each financial year, prepare a budget framework paper which shall be consistent with the National Development Plan and with the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. B, the National Budget Framework paper shall be in a format prescribed in Schedule 3 of the PFMA. Number 3, the Minister shall, with the approval of Cabinet, submit the budget framework paper to Parliament by 31st December of the financial year preceding the financial year to which the budget framework paper relates. Number 4, the Minister shall, in consultation with the Equal Opportunities Commission, issue a certificate certifying that the budget framework paper is gender and equity responsive and specify measures taken to equalize opportunities for women, men, persons with disability, and other marginalized groups. Submission of National Budget Framework Paper to Parliament. The National Budget Framework Paper for financial 2022-23 to financial 2026-27 was submitted to Parliament on 21st December 2021, and the addendum to the National Budget Framework Paper accompanied with Certificate of Gender and Equity Responsiveness was submitted to Office of the Clerk to Parliament on 31st December 2021. In that addendum, that's where Honorable Nathan Vyanyima raised the issue of that document we don't have, but it is called all combined there. The addendum came, by that time we were in recess, that's why it came to Office of the Clerk. Compliance with Schedule 3 of PFMA, an assessment by the committee indicates that the National Budget Framework Paper overall structural compliance level to Schedule 3 of PFMA 2015 largely conforms to the requirement of Schedule 3 under the PFMA Act. As the table indicated, the compliance, the tables will come there. However, the following information was not provided as required by law. 1, quantifiable estimation of the financial impact on physical risk, an estimation of the likely physical impact of risk if they are materialized, and an alternative physical framework, the flow of investment of government in the financial year. The committee notes that the compliance of the National Budget Framework Paper to Schedule 3 over the past years has never been fully complied with this requirement. So therefore, the committee recommends that Schedule 3 of PFM is fully complied with, and a statement on compliance of this schedule is presented to Parliament whenever the National Budget Framework paper is read to Parliament. Now, table 1, because you don't have it, let me read it. It is coming. Compliance assessment of National Budget Framework paper to Schedule 3 of PFMA. There is a requirement. Medium-term macroeconomic forecast, BFP should indicate the actual estimate and projection covering previous 2 financial years, the current financial year, and next 5 years. In the National Budget Framework, the average and the year-end gross domestic, year-end GDP outturn and forecast provided, rate of inflation and year-end inflation outturn and forecast provided, the rate of employment and unemployment is provided at 47% for formal employment as March 2021, and then 9% as of financial 2019-20 respectively. Average and year-end exchange rate only averaged for 2 years availed. Interest rate only for previous 2 years average provided. Money supply not provided. Medium-term fiscal framework, targets of government for variables which are subject to fiscal objectives under Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. Those ones were presented under section 1.2. Medium-term fiscal forecast covering the previous 2 financial years and next 5 years. Non-petroleum revenue provided, petroleum revenue not provided, expenditure and net lending provided, overall balance provided, non-petroleum balance provided. There is a statement of resources for annual budget for next financial year. That one is presented under section 1.4. However, the flow of investment of government is not provided, like Arion alluded. Statement of policy measures provided. Medium expenditure framework, projection of government expenditure in respect of each financial year and each program for financial year. The next financial year, those are provided. Fiscal risk statement, the main sources of risk on fiscal objectives of government provided in section is provided. However, quantified estimation of fiscal impact of this risk not provided. Compliance, consistency with National Development Plan 3. Honorable members, the goal of NDP 3 is to increase average household incomes and improve the quality of life of Ugandans. The overall theme of NDP 3 is sustainable industrialization for inclusive growth, employment, and sustainable wealth creation. With regard to macroeconomic policy alignment, the NDP, National Budget Framework paper is largely aligned to NDP 3. There is a table which shows the alignment, which is table number 2. Since the report is coming, I can read verbatimly. NDP macroeconomic policy objectives and National Budget Framework paper macroeconomic policy targets. NDP talks about poverty reduction from 21.4% to 18.5% by financial 2024-25. In the National Budget Framework paper, the information is not provided. NDP talks about achieving an accelerated economic growth rate of about 7% by financial 2024-25. Growth is projected at 7% in financial 2024-25,
and 7.6 in financial 26-27. NDP, increase in stock of jobs, increase in the stock of jobs by an annual average of about 512,000 persons. That's a national development plan. I mean, that's the NDP. The national budget framework paper projected stock of jobs to be created in financial 2022-23 is 200,000 to 150 agro-industrialization. So 150 out of the 200,000 jobs, 150 will be in agro-industry value chain. 10,000 jobs will be in tourism. 30 jobs will be in ICT. And 10,000 jobs will be in urbanization and housing sector. And NDP maintaining core inflation within the target band of 5% plus or minus 3. Core inflation, that's in national budget framework paper. Core inflation projected at 5.3 in 2024-25 and 5% in 2026-27. Ceiling on debt to GDP of 50% in present value terms and a gradual achievement of a fiscal deficit of 3% by financial 2024-25. The national budget framework paper present value of debt to GDP is projected at 34% in financial 24-25, and the nominal debt to GDP is projected at 51.2% in financial 24-25 and 49.3% in financial 25-26. Fiscal deficit as a percentage of GDP is projected at 3.7% in financial 2024-25 and 2.9% in financial 25-26. Domestic revenue average annual growth of 0.5 of GDP percentage point, that is NDP3. The framework, the budget framework, domestic revenue to GDP projected to increase by an average of 0.5% over the medium term, projected at 12.72% in financial 25-26. In regards to allocative efficiency, alignment of the national budget framework paper to the national development plan 3. There are slightly allocative inefficiencies as highlighted in table 3, mainly in the public sector transformation program, regional development program, and the climate change program. Table 3 gives us assessment of allocative efficiency alignment program, budget framework paper, then NDP3. It shows that, but members, when it comes, I think you read it. So the committee observes that agro-industrialization program is a key in monetizing the subsistence economy, and allocative efficient assessment of this program was therefore paramount. It is clear also from the table that indicative budget allocations are biased on agriculture production and productivity. There exists a significant allocative inefficiency in area of storage, agro-processing, and value addition when compared to NDP3. So members, when we compare what is provided in NDP3 on storage, agro-processing, and value addition, NDP3 is talking of government allocating 363.2 billion. In the framework, we have a national budget framework paper for financial 22-23. government has allocated 69.2 billion. That's what I'm trying to talk about. The committee then observes the following. The National Budget Framework Paper nominal debt to GDP target of 53.2 percentage point is above the NDP3 target. Target of 48% in the financial 2022-23, and there is a concern to physical sustainability. The National Budget Framework Paper does not directly present the implementation status and the list of NDP3 core projects, and yet this information will be useful in effectively ascertaining the alignment of the National Budget Framework Paper and the NDP3. It should be noted that the NDP3 core projects are high multiplier projects with significant impact to realization of the NDP3 objectives. The National Budget Framework Paper does not provide a detailed information that would be required to undertake a more comprehensive alignment of the National Budget Framework Paper to the NDP3. Allocative efficiencies at program level is not fully consistent with NDP3. The committee recommends there is a critical need to scale up revenue mobilization and gradually reduce the appetite for borrowing, especially domestic borrowing. Any further borrowing should be highly concessional to address the key strategic interventions that have high return on investment and can spur growth of the economy. The indicative allocation efficiency of the budget framework paper should be fully aligned to the NDP3. Number 3, a comprehensive assessment of national budget framework paper alignment to NDP would require a structured national budget framework paper that provide a detailed information on the following: implementation status and a statement of alignment of the budget framework paper to NDP core projects, a costed budget strategy, including cost of key priority intervention policies and detail of project impact of each intervention, a comprehensive statement of implication of misalignment of budget framework paper with NDP where misalignment exists. The National Planning Authority should fast track the midterm review of NDP3 in light of the implementation challenges occasioned by persistent COVID-19 pandemic and its associated effect on the major sectors of the economy. The review should also address the institutional challenges encountered in the shift from sector-wide approach to program-based approach, and where possible, rethink the efficacy of this reform. Consistent with budget framework, consistent with Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. This one, we tackled it yesterday, and I beg to report to the House that the NDP is largely consistent with the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility at broader level. However, by 2020, financial 2025-26, the fiscal deficit to GDP is projected at 3.1%, which is slightly higher than the 3% CFR target. In addition, the projected total debt interest payment to revenue exceeding grants of the National Budget Framework paper are not consistent with the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility for the first 4 years of the CFR period. The committee recommends that the national budget framework paper should be aligned, and where possible, the deviation section 7 of the PFMA should be enforced deviation to that. Gender and equity responsiveness, section 9 to 95 to 6A to B of PFMA provides that the Minister responsible for finance, in consultation with Equal Opportunity Commission, issue a certificate satisfying the national budget framework paper for financial year 2022, 23, 26 is gender and equity responsiveness. I'd read that earlier. In the fulfillment of the requirement of section 95 to 6A and B, the Commission assessed the national budget framework paper for financial 2022-23, financial 26-27, and overall compliance with gender and equity requirement was at 70%, an improvement from last national budget framework paper for financial 2021-22, which was rated at 64.75%. So where there's some bit of improvement. However, the committee notes the following: gender constituencies identified needs to be broadened to address aspects such as employment imbalances, inequalities, among others. Intervention articulated in the certificate were not information by any gender and equity gap mapping survey information. There are many interventions. Local governments, they also don't provide information on gender. We recommend that the Equal Opportunities Commission supported to undertake periodic national gender and equity gap mapping surveys. Equal Opportunities Commission to consider expanding its scope to work.
Members, check your iPads. The report should be there now.
To include local government and employment imbalances. More capacity building should be undertaken at all MDS, especially regard to assessment criteria and methodology. The MDS that do not submit the required documents in time should be subject to sanctions as provided for in section 78 of PFMA. Climate change responsiveness. Section 30B of the National Climate Change Act 2021 requires the Minister for Climate Change, that's the Minister for Environment now, to consult with the chairperson of the National Planning Authority and issue a certificate satisfying that the National Budget Framework paper is climate change responsive and contains adequate resource allocation for funding climate change measures and actions. The National Budget Framework paper under review, however, lacks this certificate. The committee recommends that the Minister responsible for climate change complies with the law and present before Parliament a certificate satisfying that the Budget Framework paper is climate change responsiveness. Members, I hope you've seen the document. It is there. So I'm on page 15, economic and budget performance highlights. Economic performance for financial 2021-22. I beg members that you can read that. There's a part on economic growth where the economy grew from 3% to 3.4%. So members can read that. There is an area on employment. There is a section on inflation, page 16. There's a section on external sector. There is a section on public debt. There is a section on budget performance for financial 2020-2021. Roman 1 is revenue, talks about revenue and expenditure. 4.0, that is page 18. The economic and physical strategy for financial 2022-23 and the medium term. Okay. Honorable Speaker and the members, the economic strategy in the financial 2022-23 and the medium term has the twin objective of restoring economic activity to pre-pandemic levels and subsequently accelerating the pace of socio-economic transformation. As a result, the real GDP growth is projected at 6% in financial 2022-23 and an average of 7% over the medium term. The economic strategy in the financial 2022-23 and in future seeks to achieve the following three broad objectives. One, ensure peace and stability through enhanced security and macroeconomic stability as a key foundation for growth and development. Mitigate the impact of COVID-19 pandemic through a widespread vaccination, support to businesses, and the opening of the economy to enable all sectors to function optimally. Number three, ensure economic social transformation by redirecting budgetary resources towards wealth and job creation, industrialization, export promotion, and other areas with high returns on investment. The committee observed that the economic outlook remains highly uncertain with the downward trend, including the resurgence of the tight containment measures linked to new COVID-19 variant. Therefore, what remains is critical is to mitigate the mitigation of the COVID-19 pandemic through vaccination of the targeted 22 million Ugandans and the strengthening of the health system to deal with the pandemic. Government should also maintain an elaborative sensitization program as the economy is open to ensure that the population keeps aware and safe from the surging variant. Medium-term fiscal strategy. The overall fiscal strategy is to promote inclusive growth, to increase household incomes, and improve quality of life of Ugandans without compromising physical and debt sustainability. The fiscal target for financial 2022-23 reflects a fiscal consolidation while prioritizing social spending. A budget appropriate targets 3.6% of GDP deficit target. The 1.8% of GDP improvement over the projected outturn of this financial 2021-22 will help lower expensive domestic borrowing costs and create space for private sector credit. To reduce the fiscal deficit, the public expenditure will be reduced from 20.4% in the current financial 2021-22 to 18.7% of GDP in financial 2023. This will be done by freezing the creation of administrative units and speed up rationalization to improve efficiency in government. In addition, salary enhancement across the board will be postponed. The committee recommends that fiscal policy should balance support for socio-economic recovery and sustainable public debt while reducing reliance on domestic financing to alleviate crowding out of private sector foundation. An increase in the spending of financial 2022-23 of 12% of GDP compares the reduction in private investment spending of 7.7% of GDP may not increase the productive capacity of the economy. It's therefore important to improve the spending composition towards public investment. Over the medium term, The recurrent expenditure is projected to average at 11.3% of GDP, while the denominated expenditure is projected to average at 8.5% of GDP. In order to improve productive capacity, the stock of productive infrastructure should be stepped up. The risk of debt distress has increased from low to moderate over time. The reduced amount of expensive domestic borrowing and the sourcing of concessional financing over the medium term will help to keep debt sustainable, despite increasing resort to non-concessional financing. Caution should be taken as a great shift in the composition of financing towards non-concessional financing would increase the risk of debt distress further. Considerations by government in National Budget Framework paper should adopt pre-financing mechanism may avoid this risk. Point 4.3, resource envelope for financial 2022-23. The total resource envelope for financial 2022-23 is projected at 43,083.2 billion, a decrease of 1,695.6 billion compared to the approved resource envelope for financial 2021-22. The projected decrease in resource inflow is mainly attributed to a projected substantial decrease in external borrowing for project support by 2,279.5 billion. And it's also important to note that domestic borrowing is projected to decrease by 8.72%, or Uganda shillings 1,002.1 billion compared to financial 2021-22. Domestic revenues are expected to increase by shillings 2,890.7 billion on account of increased tax revenues as a result of implementation of domestic revenue mobilization strategy and a projected growth of the economy. So table 8, it shows a summary of projected resource envelope members for financial 2022-23. You can read that, and the Honorable Adarion indicated to that. It amounts to 43 billion shillings. We note that the resource, that's a committee, we know that the resource envelope as submitted may be subject to adjustment given the fact that it was premised on December projection. If there is any new resource identified before the finalization of the budgets as indicated by the minister during the interaction with the committee, priority intervention should focus on improving the productivity capacity in all sectors to support economic recovery strategy. The minister indicated, he has said they are still working. There could be something which may come to beef up. Resource allocations by programs. Resources have been allocated to 20 programs in line with NDP 3. The 8 related expenditure included domestic areas continue to take a lion's share of 36.2%, or Uganda shillings 15,597.6 billion of the budget. Human capital development program, governance and security program, and the integrated transport infrastructure service program have been financially prioritized with 6.1%, 15%, and 11% respectively share of the budget. Other key priority programs that would spur growth, increase production, and create employment have remained adequately remain inadequately funded. These include agro-industrialization, private sector development, tourism development, mineral development programs that have been financially given 4.2, 0.4, 0.1 share. We propose that once resources are identified, should go into intervention. Table 9, it shows the projected budget estimate along those lines. 23, page 23, 4.5, review of the budget, review to finance the budget strategy for financial 2022-23. Honorable Govie, before I came in, he was talking about it. I don't want to go it, members can read. One, review of expenditure need versus the NDP priorities and the budget strategy for 22-23. Ensure that recurrent expenditure items that were part of the supplementary schedule be incorporated. Statutory obligation be provided. Wage allocation should be based on established approved staff establishments. Provision of mandatory operational costs, ensuring ongoing commitments with contractual obligation, and ensuring that project intervention are aligned to the budget strategy and program implementation action plans, PI. Now, accordingly, the proposed fund, which has been raised amounting to 1,261.2 billion, it indicated from rationalization of the budget and from Wells Fund. Members, you can read table 10.
Can you give us an executive summary of your report?
Yeah, I'm about, it is about. So members, you can read that one. Then the allocations for that. Women empowerment lost some money, all that you read it. We recommend that this is important, Madam Speaker and members. The committee observes that in order to support economic recovery and bringing on board section of the population in the subsistence economy to money economy, the rationalization of the budget is paramount. However, the rationalization of the Wells Fund must be informed by comprehensive evaluation studies to ensure that the gains or benefits from these Wells funds are not lost. We recommend restatement of existing Wells funds until a comprehensive evaluation studies are undertaken in order not to disrupt the possible gains achieved under the existing Wells fund. Parliament had made a resolution on these funds earlier. Now, we move to budget priorities and proposals. 5.1, revitalizing business activities. Here they want to help the economy to recover. The strategy they are using, one, business recovery fund to enable small business to access low cost capital to recover. A Myoga fund and it supports circles to provide seed capital. Implementation of financial inclusion pillar of the Paris development model. Capitalization of UDB, strengthening private sector institutional and organization capacity by focusing on establishment of functional business development support centers regionally. Fast tracking of approval of financial sector development strategy. So those are the interventions. And here we recommend that the Bank of Uganda should extend the credit relief to those affected in the COVID, and also to microfinance support center, agricultural credit facility, UDB, UDC, to be funded. There is Paris development model. Honorable members, you are aware of this model which I think is going to deliver the last mile that is at the parish. The model has 7 pillars, and we say in financial 2022-23, 200 billion was appropriated towards preparatory activities for the phase implementation of PDM. These funds were able to support key activities like establishment of PDM secretariat, recruitment of 6,000 parish chiefs, and popularizing the parish development model with guidelines. And in financial 2022 projection 23, government proposed to allocate additional 465 billion 0.48 for the pillar 3 financial inclusion of the parish development model in order to embark on pursuing its objective of the wananchi contributing to money economy. However, this is not fully provided. So the 465 billion, and we have like 10,594 parishes, it gives a shortfall. So we are recommending that for it to fully roll out, you have to look for the shortfall of 500 billion plus. Enhancing agro-industrialization and light manufacturing, the intervention by government is on focusing and redirecting resources to commodities that have higher impact on transforming the household, expanding storage and processing agricultural commodities, provides fund for private sector investments through UDC, like I've mentioned, the capitalization of UDB, support development of regional industrial park. And here we note that, however, as I observe, the indicative budget allocations are biased on agricultural production and the productivity, and there is a need to improve more funds. You need to provide more funds in areas of storage, agro-processing, and the value addition over the medium term. Improving the foundation of human capital development. Government has done some work there, have improved health education. Now here the committee recommends that government upholds government strategy in the financial 2022-23 of combating the COVID-19 pandemic through countrywide vaccination, targeting that increase. Then fast tracking of national health insurance policy, a national ambulance system, and also the education sector, local content. We have been talking about local content here. In this regard, the community made the following recommendation. As Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development immediately issue a certificate of financial implications of the national local content bill in order for Parliament to finalize its legislation. Build the capacity of local farm to benefit from private investment by implementing the existing local content policy and other related legislation. Develop and implement a holistic local content policy and the legal institution. Enhancing domestic revenue mobilization. I've talked to this earlier. We recommend that the government to fast track the review of domestic revenue mobilization strategy in the view of the current economic challenges, the COVID-19, and develop an effective implementation action for the effective operationalization of domestic revenue mobilization strategy. This should include establishing policies to formalize the informal sector. We recommend to develop a national tax policy implement a coordinated approach to revenue mobilization across government ministries, departments, and agencies, and undertake a study for effectiveness and productivity of tax exemption in Uganda. Enhancing physical space and government efficiency. The minister has talked about rationalization and the policy development model. We recommend that the government, through the Ministry of Public Service, should fast track the implementation of the cabinet decision to rationalize and merge some of government departments and agencies to reduce resource wastage, duplication of services, and bring about efficiency in service delivery. Government should table in the Parliament the necessary constitutional amendment and the laws to enable completion of the rationalization of government ministries, departments, and agencies. Government develops a roadmap for the implementation of the commitment to enhance salaries of public servants by 50% and enforce strict adherence to performance contract by accounting officer. Domestic areas, honorable members, yesterday I talked about domestic areas. We employ our Minister of Finance to provide money to clear domestic areas because this has greatly affected most of the citizens. Some have lost property, some have closed business, and it also helped to kickstart the economy. So the provision of 395 billion in financial 22-23 is inadequate to address this challenge. Strengthening public sector management, we are recommending that government should only undertake projects which are ready, fund projects which are ready, those which are not ready, which are under feasibility study should wait. And also we recommend monitoring mechanism for this program. The way forward, we are saying the strategy in the medium term should continue building sound principle of private sector-led inclusive growth and public sector reforms to strengthen governance and transparency. It should envisage multi-year physical consolidation while increasing priority and high-quality infrastructure spending and foster public sector efficiency. Safeguarding debt sustainability should be prioritized. So here we are looking at there's also urgent need to accelerate reform aimed at facilitating the public sector activities, particularly SMEs, to develop capacity to drive the industrialization effort, increase export, create jobs, and increase local content. These reforms should include further improving the business environment by increasing access to affordable credit and reducing the cost of doing business through increasing access to affordable energy and a reliable transport infrastructure that links the country to regional partners in order to widen market opportunity. To harness the potential human resource to adequately drive Uganda development agenda, there is a need to build and build skill-based.
Procedure matter.
Madam Speaker, I want to raise the matter of procedure, the way we are handling, and I want to request the chairperson, Honorable Mutimi, to kindly yield.
I'm winding up.
Yes, Madam Speaker, this is a budget framework paper. And under our rules, all of us have participated in the process through the sectors, though, according to the minister, we should have adjusted our rules of procedure and constituted ourselves under programs. But all of us have participated through committees of trade, agriculture, and then we appeared before the committee of budget to harmonize. To me, I thought that the chairperson would highlight areas of dissent where we disagree with the government, so that government picks up, goes and harmonize, and when they bring now the estimate, then we see, have they taken our issues we raised or not. That is the right procedure. But now, if we really read everything, I think, and what time shall we have the shadow minister to present? Those are the issues. In fact, Madam Speaker, we should have even allowed the shadow minister to present, because it is the opposition that has serious issues of dissent, which government needs to listen to. So I'm raising this matter, Madam Speaker, that don't you think the procedure correct? Are we operating procedure in the right way, or we need to make some adjustment? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kanya. I can see is concluding. And what is concluding, and I agree with you on the issues of dissent. Why we have opposition is to give us alternative policies and to check us in government. So we want to make emphasis on areas of dissent and see how we can harmonize the process, how the minister can go back and make sure that this is harmonized, and he reports back to the House before the ministerial statement is brought. So, Chair, can you conclude?
Right, Honorable Speaker, I was on the last paragraph, which Honorable Kanya came a bit late, but I'm winding up. So, right, Honorable Speaker and members, I've finished with Part A. Now, Part 2 is sector committee observations and recommendation, which my brother, Honorable Ekanya, has talked about. We really process this work, all of us, and I implore members to read the recommendation from the sectors on the report attached from page 36 to page 236. So those are sector recommendations, proposals, which I implore members to read. Right, Honorable Speaker, I have a minority report attached to this report. I beg one of the authors of the minority report to present to the House.
Thank you so much, Chair Budget. And thank you for the presentation that you've made. And one thing I just want to remind ourselves, we are doing this as per Rule 145, Section 145, subsection 3. I also want to highlight that the budget framework paper is a government overall strategy document for the budget that provides the government overall policies identified in the National Development Plan and the annual budget. It is the harmonization process. Unlike what he said, it contains the macroeconomic policy, the plans, and the overall fiscal strategy, such as the revenue projections, the resource envelope that is available, and then the priority intervention that will be identified in the National Development Plan. And remember, we are supposed to get our recommendations and submit to the President by 1st February. And after the debate today, I am ordering the clerk to extract all the recommendations and make sure that they are with the President on 1st. 1st is Tuesday. Can we have, first, I want you to lay on paper, on table,
Honorable Speaker.
lay the attendance register,
Right,
lay
Honorable
the minutes, lay the submissions of witnesses.
Right, Honorable Speaker and members, I beg to lay on table the report of the Budget Committee on the National Budget Framework Paper for financial 2022-23 to financial 26-27. I beg to lay.
Thank you.
It is accompanied by one, a copy of committee reports, several committee sector reports, minutes of the committee meeting, submission of the national budget framework paper from entities, Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, National Planning Authority, Shadow Minister for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Equal Opportunities Commission, Economic Policy and Research Center, Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group. I beg to read.
Yes, Lay. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the submission and for being brief. How I pray the shadow becomes more brief and give us just executive summary of the areas of dissent.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity. Later on, I'm going to ask my sister here to present our minority report, but before I invite her, Right, Honorable Speaker, allow me to take this opportunity to officially lay, not a minority, our response to the budget framework paper. Because we are not sitting under COVID, the rules permit that we should have laid it here, but it is important that we officially lay it under Rule 53 of our Rules of Procedure and under the Public Admission of Parliamentary Act. So I beg to lay, Right Honorable
Yes,
Speaker. And with that,
Honorable Minister, you need to look at all the documents that are being laid in regard to the National Budget Framework paper and see how you harmonize. Yes.
with this, Right Honorable Speaker, let me request my sister here, Honorable Namuga from Aogola.
And as I said, brief.
She will try her level best. It's part of grooming and mentoring the next leadership in this country.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My name is Goret Namuga, the Member of Parliament from Aogola County South. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm here to present a minority report on the National Budget Framework paper for the financial year 2022-23, 2026-2027. I'm going to summarize. Right Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Rule 205 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament, we hereby present a dissenting opinion from the opinion of the majority of the committee. The areas of dissent. We dissented with the majority on the committee on the following areas: implementation of the parish model, risky projects, externally financed project portfolio, capital flight, government tax areas, prompting of supplementary expenditures, value for money audits, contingent liabilities, non-remittance of environment levy. These are the observations in summary. Right Honorable Speaker, government has adopted a parish model, which we all support, but that demands in the spirit of decentralization that all ministries and departments and other agencies should operate and execute their mandate at the parish level. This would require no new structures and additional resources for MDAs already have been allocated, that MDAs have already been allocated resources to execute their mandate. What do we mean? We recommend that, aware that all government agencies already have allocated resources, they should decentralize their services to parish model other than creation of new structures, aware that the resource envelope is very limited. 2, risky projects in externally financed project portfolio. The majority report agrees with the approach undertaken by government to renegotiate all counts of 17 risky projects, which come to a total of US dollars 557 million. That is approximately 2.8 trillion shillings. Right Honorable Speaker, this could be attributed to the fact that most projects are committed without a feasibility study, and this is a cost to the government of Uganda. Our recommendation is, Right Honorable Speaker, before that, to the contrary, it is the considered opinion that Parliament undertakes oversight and accountability through inquiry into each of the risky projects with the intention of understanding the impact of the cancellation of the projects on beneficiary communities, drawing lessons and informing considerations of future projects. This will also assess the reasons advanced by government for projects that are critical to the lives of Ugandans. We recommend that Section 43 of the Public Finance Management Act should be amended to create a provision that demands a project to be that a project to be funded by loans and grants to present a feasibility study. And also a select committee of parliament should be formed to critically inquire into each of these 17 projects, Right Honorable Speaker. The details are hereby are within this report. 3 is capital flight. Right Honorable Speaker, majority of the beneficiaries of public contracts and incentives are foreign-owned companies that repatriate profits or close business once contracts and incentives cease. This is mostly pronounced in the construction, particularly of roads, water, and manufacturing subsectors. These projects consume a large sum of money of Uganda's budget. These are projects under development projects for construction of new roads, reconstruction stroke upgrading projects, and others are for rehabilitation of projects. Right Honorable Speaker, it should be noted that for the last 6 financial years, the country has been experiencing average capital flight of 69% of the capital injected into the economy. Our recommendation is government should deliberately and competitively venture into investing into infant industries such as construction and mining industries, among others, where a lot of public funds are spent. Funds should be allocated towards undertaking a study on how to facilitate reinvestment of proceeds from foreign investors into the country. Also, efforts should be geared towards improving governance of public operations so as to improve their worthiness for capital markets financing models such as selling of equity. Lastly, legal frameworks should be developed for emerging alternative financing mechanisms, particularly pre-financing and contract financing, among others. Another area is government tax areas. Another revenue mobilization risks to the extent to which government abducts its tax obligations. Unfortunately, it never penalizes itself. Right Honorable Speaker, it should be noted that the greatest defaulter is the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. You will look at the list. The Minister of Finance and Economic Development has tax areas of 151,788,705, among others. The tax areas should be reduced from the allocations of each of the ministries, departments, and agencies in the financial 22-23. Prompting of the supplementary expenditures. Right Honorable Speaker, the indiscipline of supplementary budgets is bound to continue, and government has sent indications that a minimum of 2.6 trillion will be sought in the due course. As has been the trend in the past years, the supplementary requests are inadequately screened. Section 25 of the Public Finance Management Act has on several times been abused immediately after the start of the new financial year to access the 3% of annual budget as supplementary expenditure without prior approval of Parliament. Unfortunately, most of the supplementary expenditures have been found not to satisfy the supplementary criteria of being unavoidable or unforeseeable. Our recommendation is, given the fact that the annual budget is approved by 31st May and expenditures of subsequent financial year immediately begin on 1st July, Section 25 of the Public Finance Management Act should be amended to deal away with express 3% supplementary limit. Besides, this does not deter government to introduce a supplementary request whenever crisis arises. Another one is value for money audits. Right Honorable Speaker, it has been noted that in the last 10 years, the Auditor General has undertaken only 91, that is 0.5% value for money audit, compared to 1,740, 420, that is 97% of financial audits, and 370, that is 2.1% of the forensic investigations and IT audits. The figures are given. We recommend that in each year, at least an increment of 20% is realized in the number of value for money audits undertaken by the Office of the Auditor General. Another area is contingent liabilities. Right, Honorable Speaker, it has been noted with concern that there is an escalating rise in contingent liabilities, which when they materialize lead to accumulation of public debt and erosion of sustainability of public finances. As of June 2020, contingent liabilities were over 5 trillion. Right, Honorable Speaker, there are also guarantees made to private enterprises amounting to Uganda shillings 10.43 billion, as at the end of June 2020, as indicated in the table. However, the criteria for determining who qualifies for the guarantees is ambiguous. This raises the risk of abuse through discretionary selection. The value of guarantees of the private enterprises could not be established. Our recommendation is the criteria for benefiting from government guarantees should be disclosed to ensure transparency and fairness in their access. 2, the budget framework paper should explicitly declare the stock of contingent liabilities and beneficiaries are likely to fall due, and the beneficiaries that are likely to fall due within the subsequent financial year. Lastly is non-remittance of the environmental levy. Right, Honorable Speaker, while the majority report recommends that part of the environmental levy is remitted to the National Environment Management Authority, it contravenes Article 153(2) of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda and Section 32 of the National Environment Management Act 2019. The provision stipulates that funds ought to be disposed in the National Environment Fund and utilized for the purpose for which the funds to finance the environment, for which the funds levy was established. The levy was intentioned at mobilizing funds to finance environmental activities such as protection, conservation, enforcement, and rehabilitation, among others. Unfortunately, these are among the least financed activities, hence continued degradation of the environment. Our recommendation, in accordance with Article 132 of the Constitution and Section 32 of the National Environment Act 2019, all funds realized from the environmental levy should be remitted to the National Environment Fund. Right, Honorable Speaker and members, we implore you to support the minority report we beg to submit. This report has been signed by the Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi and Namugagoreti. Thank you. And Honorable Nambeshe.
Thank you so much, Gore, for the report. Members, you've heard the 2 reports. I constituted a harmonization team, and can I have a report on the harmonization team before, for us to avoid wastage of time? Yes, can we have a statement from you?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. We normalized and we came up with the positions. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, if I can briefly start parish development model, we all do realize that government strategy was to close some existing projects, existing programs, in order to fund the parish development model. But as you may be aware, the majority report indicated that no, you cannot close successful projects, programs like Coffee Development Authority and claim to transfer that money to fund the parish development model. The parish development model money should be looked for by an adjustment in the resource envelope
because the same government has tried to squeeze and over-tighten the belt by first of all reducing the borrowing. But we are saying, if there was any time government of Uganda should have borrowed the money, then it's now, when we are coming out of this heavy shocks. You can't now wake up. You've been borrowing when the situation has been normal. Then now when you have reached this stage, when we are coming out of shock, where we are supposed to undergo a recovery, then you say, no, we don't need to borrow. We need to squeeze, and then it may lead into a collapse. The fear there is the GDP, debt to GDP ratio. The debt to GDP ratio should not worry us much because it's a factor of a numerator and a denominator. So the numerator being debt and the denominator being GDP. Therefore, to maintain a percentage which is acceptable, it's not necessarily by reducing the numerator. You may maintain debt where it is, but invest wisely to productive sectors so that you grow the denominator and you'll have a reduced percentage. So we are agreeable to that. Now, what needs now studies, according to the minority report, is once we go into funding the parish level, do we still need other structures like LOC3, like district, or we need from president to parish? That's why we are saying maybe we need more study on that. And then government will study and bring that to this house. Point number 2 on capital flight. The projects which are listed for capital flights, we borrow money, undertake heavy projects like roadworks, but we contract the roadworks to foreign companies. Now, this house member, private member brought here a boo-boo bill, which we have not yet processed. Secondly, this heavy works capacity, as far as we are concerned locally with our companies, is not yet well built. But government is also in a process. It started funding technical development as far as capacity. That's why there is a college in Mbale called Meltech under Elgon Technical to train the youth in road seal, hands-on road sealing. And we are saying government should continue funding that program, and we build capacity over time, and we can come out of that crisis over time. There are projects which are risky projects. We agreed that government concedes. There are projects which have been idle. There are projects where we have borrowed money, but they are not taking off, and yet we are meeting commitment fees. So government is going to take a review of all these projects and renegotiate them in order to make them good. And those which do not result in becoming good, where the probability of success is unforeseen, is totally not seeable, then they are abandoned. So that report, Right Honorable Speaker, you will direct the government to do that study and bring that report concerning the projects. Tax areas. We thought this one is not a very big crisis because it's from the left pocket demanding from the right pocket. It's the same government demanding taxes from government. So the relevance of it, as far as revenue growth is concerned, is neutral. Then supplementary budgets. This one we thought we didn't need to emphasize much on it, but we all keep in view. It's really right that we develop financial budget discipline. And if we are to bring in a supplementary, we expect really those which meet the test. Not even tea, drinking water for meetings. So
Yes.
that one is a
Procedure from Isaiah.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. I raise on a procedure point what I expected from the Honorable Chair about the harmonized position was that this was the position of the main report. This was the position for the minority report. This is what we harmonized. Position.
You see, Isaiah,
Yes.
what the chairman is saying, when you look at the implementation of the parish model, he agrees with the minority report. And that's why he's saying that we are going to ask the Minister of Finance to bring a harmonized position from government on this aspect before they present a ministerial policy statement. All these agreed positions is giving an explanation on what is happening. And I think is in totality in agreement of the minority report is a very important thing.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the wise ruling. The last one is value for money audit. Yes, the minority report is right. We need to move away from this concentrating much on a financial audit, where we go for value, so that we look at the quality, what are the results from the investment. So the major report under our recommendation from the sector of finance and economic development is Auditor General be allocated more funds specifically to carry out value for money audits. So that when they buy a table, we are not going to say we bought a table at this amount, here are the receipts. We must check the table. Does it serve the purpose? And what's the quality of that table? What's the lifespan of that table? And that's what, in our discussion with the Honorable Kipum, that's an example which was given for the value for money. So that Auditor General undertakes most of effort on performance audit, other than checking the entries, book entries and receipts, which can even be forged. So we are totally in agreement, and the government has to take that seriously. When they bring the budget, we expect more allocation of funds to Auditor General to be able to undertake performance audits. I beg to submit.
Maybe before we allocate more funds to Auditor General, we need to audit Auditor General also first. We need to audit Auditor General because when we talk about the output now, value for money, we need to see the real output that we are getting from there. Chairman, you and me, we have been in accountability committees. We know the loopholes that are there, and this institution must be audited. And this institution is an institution of parliament. It is us to make sure that they are audited. Can I have a commitment from government? Now that the chair has accepted that the amendments must be taken in consideration, can I have yes, you have something?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the committee on budget for their report, very detailed report, and also thank the opposition for coming up with the alternative or minority report. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to agree with the report, with the issues that were raised in both the majority report and also the minority report raises quite serious issues. When you look at the domestic revenue in this country, we have untapped sources. I was in the minerals sector, and Right Honorable Speaker, I want to inform this House, if we can organize the minerals sector, it would contribute much more than we are actually getting from even tourism, which is currently the highest income source. And this is why we came up with the Minerals and Mining Bill that has been presented before this House. And I want to appeal to the committee that is handling this bill to fast track it, because their hands are tied because of the law that is currently outdated. So if that could be done, would really improve the livelihoods of Ugandans and also our revenue base. The other issue, Right Honorable Speaker, the out-of-pocket expenditure on health is extremely high in this country, and that's another area that we need to tap into, because much of this money that our people, majority of our people are actually paying for health, goes into the pockets. You all know about the corruption in our health facilities. We actually gave a press statement the other day. Right now, for you to be able to be attended to in our health facilities, the mothers, if you don't have between 300,000 and 500 for a cesarean section, you won't be attended to. Mothers are dying in health facilities. And this money is going into the pockets of some of the corrupt. Not all health workers are corrupt, but there are some who are corrupt. So if we had a national health insurance scheme, this corruption would be history, and that would be another revenue base to help us finance the health sector. I want to end, Right Honorable Speaker. We did meet with the leader of opposition, the presenter of the minority reports, the signatory, the chair of the budget committee, and we agree that the issues raised by the opposition are quite valid issues that should not be lost. And therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, if it is okay, I would like to move that we adopt both reports and ask government to look into the issues raised raised in the minority report and see how to take them up or address them. If that is okay, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Right
Honorable
Honorable Speaker.
Minister, that's why I needed a commitment from government that they are going to adapt and make amendment on what the minority report is saying. But however, even when I had you addressing the press on health issues, you're a member of parliament, it is auditing time, and I told you, you should have gone to make sure that the budget provides for money for health. It's not the press that answers some of these questions. Minister, can we have your commitment? You know, you can speak from morning up to sunset. There's only one institution, one person to solve these things.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Eki.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I'm sorry, Honorable Minister. Madam Speaker, Honorable Siagi raised the issue of boo-boo. But Madam Speaker, you know it very well, and all of us know, that all these foreign companies that does work here, they are supported by their mother countries under export credit. The earlier put money in the budget to indigenize the economy, including South Africa, the better. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I come from Alaba. For the last 1 month, the non-tariff barrier increased the cost of doing business, fuel. Dwellers are still stuck to this date. I was in Nairobi last week. We were told the president of Uganda, the president of Kenya have talked and ordered that dwellers must be cleared without scanning, without weighing. And hence, the price of fuel is up. Most factories are lacking raw materials, and we are sitting here expecting that we shall raise local tax. Madam Speaker, I request that this issue be addressed immediately as we move forward.
Honorable Eki, we are discussing the issue of fuel on Tuesday. So make sure you're here to have that. Dr. Abed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just raised on 2 issues. When we first came to this parliament, for us who are new, the Speaker mentioned that this is going to be a people's parliament. When I look at the budget framework, and it seeks to provide 4.2% of the national budget to the agro industry, where our people are, I begin to doubt whether we are a people's parliament. Under the agro-based industry program, it seeks to expand storage and processing capacity
for our agricultural commodities. And they seek to allocate 69 billion, only 69 billion. We were in Buhej. Farmers were crying for tea factories. In my place where I come from, Greater Masaka, we are crying for the last 20 years for a pineapple fruit factory. Just a pineapple fruit factory, so that we can add value. And our farmers will come from the subsistence that this government talks about 39% of our people. We are seeking your indulgence, Madam Speaker. And secondly, about the parish model. This parish model, the way it is designed, government seeks to allocate funds for every parish. But this is my concern. In central Uganda, we have 1,701 parishes. That is central Uganda, with a population of 11.9. Eastern Uganda, with a population of 10.8, there is 3,273 parishes. Northern Uganda, with a population of 8.6, 2,300 parishes. Western Uganda, with a population of 10.6 also, 2,570.
Dr. Bed.
Yes.
The National Budget Framework paper is on the principles.
Yes.
You've gone into debating on what the figures, the project. I mean,
Madam
wait,
Speaker, this
they
is
are going to
principle.
bring a ministerial policy paper.
But this is
Can you sit?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Right Honorable Speaker, government presented a statement on the parish development model, which was referred to the Committee on Local Government, and where we expect a full report to be presented on the floor and we discuss. So I would think, I wanted to inquire whether we are procedurally moving well.
Yes. This is
When there is a committee looking into the parish model, is going to present a report before the ministerial policy statement is presented. But we are here, a member is proceeding with preempting discussions of the committee.
And the issues that have been raised by the shadow are very important issues that must be addressed. That is what must be addressed. And you cannot remove the statement of saying we're people's parliament, but because of the 4.2. In this budgeting process, all of you have been involved, apart from the speaker. So it is you who does not love the people of Uganda. Minister, can I have?
Right Honorable Speaker, let me begin by appreciating the movers of the majority report and the movers of the minority report. Indeed, with this kind of input, I want to state that we are meeting the objective of this exercise, because the idea was to get your input. You are part of the stakeholders in this process. So I want to appreciate the reports that have been presented and the ideas that have come through, both from the minority movers and the majority movers. So to the extent possible, we are going to analyze all of these issues, and within the context of our resources, try to implement them. The chair of the budget committee has gone further to indicate that even if it needs additional borrowing, please do so. In effect, you are now revising the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility that you approved yesterday. So it is good that it is coming from your side. You know, we do not want to violate the rules, But I think by that statement, you are telling us that we should widen the fiscal space to accommodate some of these things. And we are all ready for the consequences of doing that. We are trying to manage the economy to make sure that we don't land into very difficult situations where we are not able to service our debts and where inflation goes haywire. But we are going to study all these issues. The issues of capital flight, we're already handling this. We have a directive from the president and from cabinet as the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Works, particularly on the roads, to see how far we can build the capacity of our local enterprises to reduce this problem of capital flight. We already note this is a serious problem. We borrow money from wherever, then the same people come here and they do the work because of lack of capacity in this country. So the issues of building the capacity of our enterprises, including public enterprises. Already you have heard about a directive by His Excellency the President, directing that the Army Brigade should construct the health facilities, should construct the schools, and we began implementing that directive this financial year. All that is intended to indigenize construction capabilities. So, Madam Speaker, we really want to move with the House on the recommendation that have been made, and we promise that we shall do our best to make sure that we implement them. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Right Honourable Minister. I was raising a clarification issue. I thought it would be moved away. Right Honourable.
You concede? Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for your indulgence. I would like to thank initially my team on the Budget Committee for the in-depth appreciation of the BFP and their minority thereof that deeply informed our discussion on this subject. And the fact that, Right Honourable Speaker, this is the first year and the first budget of the 11th Parliament. It's very, very important that members are helped to understand the budgeting cycle and the key pillars of our budget arrangement. Right Honourable Speaker, one of the challenges that we need to fully appreciate while considering the BFP is that if I recollect quite well, that over the last 3 financial years, we undertook a migration from output-based budgeting to program budgeting. And that migration is causing challenges at Parliament of appreciating what changed when we started considering the indicators as per the NDP documents. So we need to be fully appreciative of why these are very key, and the reason why the issues talked about in the minority, especially value for money audit, are very key, because in the program-based budgeting, are very many challenges where accountability can easily be shielded and protected. So we need to be very clear on auditing value for money under the new budget framework, which is program-based. Second, Right Honourable Speaker, the minister has to assure this House that eventually, after rationalization, they're going to reconsider options. One,
to bridge the gaps. Initially, what I have considered is a gap of 2.6 trillion. So the parish model has barely half of the desired funding, actually less than half. We are prioritizing oil. The national oil company is not funded. We intend to revitalize the economy through UDC. It's a pipe dream because they are unfunded priorities. So we need to think through the direction of the economy if you are going to really pick up. We can blame COVID for so many problems, but part of the problem is our planning. A planning that's skewed towards consumption and not production. Right, Honourable Speaker, for the last 2 financial years, expenditures on some of the sectors was frozen, including Parliament. And we said there was no money because of COVID. Part of what we wait for eventually is to appreciate exactly how much money was expended, despite the fact that expenditures were frozen. So maybe the minister will tell us we have a huge bank balance because of the unspent funds, because of the frozen expenditures. Of course, we still did not collect a lot that much. That's the problem. So we expect that these funds that are available, the fact that over the last 2 financial years, we agreed in principle to freeze, especially consumption expenditure, to which Parliament was a victim, and of course other key agencies of government. So we expect that some of these key expenditure centers for economic revitalization find resources. Yesterday, Right Honourable Speaker, I had a problem understanding why the Minister of Finance, the Honourable Musas, was arguing about the need to structure revenue from minerals. And of course, I appreciate the majority report, also appreciate the fact that our revenue sources are not rationalized. That's why we are here and there and nowhere. So I want to invite the minister that even before we have the minerals bill processed, there's a lot of money moving around through the mineral resources. Not gold only. Go to Kabale. There's export of iron ore through the various channels. So who is pocketing this money? Why is it the money in the system for us to see that there's the source when the export is taking place? I was in Kabale a few weeks back, and I was speaking to the people owning these iron ore deposits. Wolfram is being mined in the same geographical area. So is this food for people to eat in the locality or an export? So who is pocketing this money that people don't want us to align as Parliament for sources? So it's very important that you not wait for the bill, but because money is moving through these resources, we need to align them. Lastly, Right Honourable Speaker, the statement by Honourable Dr. Bedi Wanika should not be lost. I appreciate the fact that we have an assignment given to the committee. Our rules stipulate the time frame. We need to appreciate when did the Right Honourable Speaker do assign this committee to produce this report before we do process the policy statements of ministries. My understanding of the parish model, whatever its challenges, is a form of equalization for communities. And therefore, it should not be used as a form of economic gerrymandering to undermine particular regions of the country. So, before we process the final budgets, let's get this report Right Honourable Speaker, so that we are able to understand whether the key pillars of this model purposes and intentions are going to be served by the way parishes are aligned in the country, because it has a lot to do with the population distribution and the attendant resource allocation, Right Honourable Speaker. Once again, I want to thank my team. I think I'm within right for a job well done. And also appreciating the minister for climbing down his high horse, and appreciate the opposition as doing a very good job. Thank you.
And also appreciate the whole house.
Right Honourable Speaker is in order to congratulate the whole house.
Yes. Thank you so much, Love. And thank you, first of all, the chairman of the committee. Thank you, the chairpersons of the sectoral committees. I saw people working tirelessly to ensure that they fed the budget committee. You've done a great job during this time, mindful of the time frame we have. And I must really say thank you, Chair, Budget, and also thank you so much, Shadow, pardon? Shadow, thank you so much for the report, exhaustive report. The Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development should register the matters that have been raised in the minority report and have them duly addressed and report back to this House before the ministerial policy paper is presented. And mindful that the ministerial policy paper is supposed to be presented by 15th of March. So we should have a response and actions taken on what has been raised before that date. The issues raised on the majority report must be harmonized together with the major report. The minister should study those issues raised on the majority report and then report back. And then the various committees of parliament, the sectoral committees, in their day-to-day oversight duty, should also monitor whether what was agreed is what is in the ministerial policy, what is coming in the ministerial policy statement, or else you'll be left out. You need to do your work in making sure that what you've recommended must come out in the ministerial statement. Then I also instruct the clerk. The clerk to parliament should extract all these recommendations, including what is in the minority document, and ensure that they are being sent to the president by 1st February. That is on Tuesday. I now put a question that a report of the Committee of Budget on the National Budget Framework Paper 2022-2023, 2026-2027, taking in consideration the amendments from the minority report, be adopted by this August House. Those in favor say aye, to the contrary nay. The ayes have it. Thank you so much for today's sitting. And I am sorry for the inconvenience. The House is adjourned to Tuesday at 2.